And I'm going to say, welcome to, oh, wait. Everybody has to put their hands in front of the screen for just a second. Of course, now it's a little too late. And take them away because you have a guest again today. And so Brian is making a bit longer recording and wanted some sort of marker as to where to start the video, sort of thing, when he edits it later. So, good morning, everybody.
Good
This is episode
morning.
315. We do have Brian is not here this morning. I'm thinking there'll be some other people too because he's going to a No Kings protest. So we have this will be date number 2 with Dennis. Dennis is back from last week. So I will, well, that's all I need to say, Dennis. Take it away.
Well, first, thank you, Maria, and thanks again for all of you, and to Rabbi Brian. It was so nice to be invited back for this second date, as we say, with air quotes, so soon after. So it's really nice. It's an indication that things went well, and I just really want to thank you all for the lovely feedback that I received personally and the encouragement that I got from sharing what I do. I think we encourage a lot each other when we let folks know what their experience has meant, your experience has meant for their own lives. And I want to thank you so much. I definitely get more out of these things, I think, even than I give. And so you've been a real gift to me. And I want to thank you for that. I'll thank Maria and Dan in particular. You know, if there's anything, I'm going to keep looking at the screen, my notes, and just thinking as we go along. And if there's anything that's in the chat that I might miss or something that needs somebody who's got a hand up and we might not notice, I will really encourage you to participate. One of the things that we touched on the last time, we talked about everybody doing research and development, R&D on life together, and that we all have, you know, as part of this R&D system, we have different sensors and instruments. That's all of you. We are our own experiences that we share with each other. And so for especially for you, some of the quiet ones who don't necessarily always participate actively, really want to encourage you to, you know, pass along some of your sensor data to the group as we go along because it means everything to us and it provides us with perspectives that we would otherwise miss. And so I encourage you to participate. We hope to be a very interactive session again. Now, the last time we got together, we really were trying to plot a course to something that only in passing I really mentioned the word eudaimonia. Eudaimonia. Anybody remember what eudaimonia meant, or what the word means? Anybody at all?
Is that even a word?
Living a good
It
life,
is.
something like that.
Very good.
We
Well,
can
well,
break it
can
up.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's that. So Dan gets a gold star for like the very simple explanation of eudaimonia, which is literally the good life. And sometimes we think that in our colloquial terminology today, the good life, you envision the good life as somebody who's, you know, got a yacht and they're going to parties and they're very wealthy, and that's actually just a superficial, very probably one of the most
Mm,
superficial things.
yeah.
Eudaimonia is a concept in philosophy. It's rooted in a Greek word, and the good life in that sense is a much, much deeper thing. Yes,
Hmm.
it does mean general happiness. You could say eudaimonia is happy as well, but the good life has to do with it's a more active thing. It's something where you relate how you live and that sense of well-being deeply with who you are and what you do as well.
Hmm.
So it goes to a deeper sense of fulfillment in life. Sometimes seeking that fulfillment in life might means that you work hard and are a little uncomfortable today, but you go to bed tired and you're gratified because you accomplished something that was had a deeper meaning for you, or you might be in the struggle. But you know, as we go to the new No Kings protest, some of the folks of the No Kings protest today are going to be doing, they had to find a babysitter and drive for miles and be in a traffic jam. And none of that was necessarily that pleasant. But when they're done and they look at the results of it, they go, I'm so glad I did that because it just makes me feel like so fulfilled that I did it. And that's what eudaimonia is all about. But it starts with, as we said, we kind of, the homework really was on three things. I wanted you to think a little bit, first of all, about what you are. And that goes to what we are as human beings, uh, who you are individually as a person, and then what do we do about it, or how do you then live? And so, what and this is just part I'm going to try to test a little bit to kind of get us to understand that a little bit more. I'll just do a little recap so we're not just left hanging there. I'll do a little bit of a recap, then I'll ask you how you think about that in your own minds, and then I'll give a little bit of my own answer to the same questions, and then we'll go on to the next segment. Okay? So when we talked last week, we talked about what are we? What are you? And most definitely, I think with a quick scan, and even with the ones who are not on camera, I think there's, with the exception of perhaps maybe an AI in here and taking notes, it's all human beings here, right? Humans? Any
Yep.
non-humans other than the AIs in the room? I just want to know. I don't want
I
to offend
believe I'm
anybody.
100% human. I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Part angel as well, by the way. But
Oh,
let's say at least 75% human in Deborah's case.
I agree.
Anybody not at least 75% human here? Okay, good. We're good. All right. So human beings are definitely living things, right? We know that we share a vast amount of DNA, more than 99.9% with each other. So definitely in the same class. And then a huge percentage of DNA with all of the other mammalian species on the earth, and a huge percentage of DNA, and we're talking about 80% plus with all of the vertebrates, and then a huge percentage with the multicellular creatures, and it goes down as we get down to singular cells and so forth. But we are living things in an interconnected web of life. That's the nice kind of summary of what we are, and that puts us in relation to all of the living things on the planet, and who knows, maybe even beyond this planet. But that's yet remains to be seen. When we have more data, we can judge that. So what are we? We are part of the interconnected web of life. We also talked about us being part of a global system of that interconnected web of life, which also includes some non-living things like financial systems and legal systems and so forth. And what we also mentioned yet last week was then, in terms of that interconnected web of living things and systems and systemic things, that is the it. We talked about last week that oftentimes we look at the dysfunction of the world and we start framing it in terms of them, right? Looking at the other humans, and we forget really that each of those humans are just another piece, just like we are, in the overall interconnected it. And the brokenness is a brokenness of it, not them. And we retrieve our own proper perspective when we look at it rather than just them. Okay, it over them. So what I would say last week is things like there is no them, it's not about them, it's about it. We have to kind of understand our place with regards to it. We also mentioned things, we talked about our own sense of patterns and things that outrage us. And, somebody mentioned things that outrage them. For example, like being a woman in society, not being heard, about having an outrage about justice, for example. No Kings Today, very much about justice. And I really share that. I have a heightened sense of injustice, and often that can outrage us. We left ourselves with the reflection that there is no justice, that there is just us, That means that justice is an active thing that we create together. So them, so it versus them, just us versus justice, and that we are the constituent parts of that. So I want you to keep those things in mind when we go into this interactive, kind of more interactive part. And I'm going to look for comments and reflections from everybody. In particular, let's have a reflection of keeping it at this week. Let's just say this week. This past week, uh, in what ways could we apply those principles to what you see happening in the world or even in your own life this past week? In which way is it helpful for you to think of it versus them? And in which ways has it been helpful for you to think of the principle of just us instead of expecting justice? I'll leave that open, and the floor is open. If you have any comments there that you want to, how do you see those two concepts being useful for you to understand and act in your world just over this past week, perhaps?
I had a friend ask me yesterday, a friend, an American friend, asking a Canadian, I'm a Canadian, if we think Americans are stupid, sort of thing. And it was sort of like, no, it was sort of that I'm not going to put everybody, Americans into a them sort of thing. We're part of that system. They're part of a system. We're part of that system as well, sort of thing. Um, and I think that I was able to help my friend sort of, it's not that black and white sort of thing. Um, it's not that easy sort of thing. So, but I was thinking of that sort of thing and not theming us, theming them.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Powerful. In 2016, just before that election, I was afflicted with that. Of course, the media is. We talked about the outrage machine, and actually, this is where I'm going to share one victory just after I tell this story. The outrage machine that had been feeding me something where. Going into the 2016 elections in the US, went with my wife. I'm Canadian too, by the way. And my wife and I lived in Southern Ontario. And in Southern Ontario, there's a wine region called Niagara. And those of you close enough to the Niagara wine region, whether you are in Canada or in the US, and if you like wine, do visit Canadian wineries. Wonderful wines, great food, wonderful place. So we spent 3 days at a bed and breakfast in Niagara on the Lake, and there was some Americans visiting at the same time at the same bed and breakfast. So we had breakfast, and then optionally, if you were around, you could have the dinner there as well. And so I had breakfast and then some dinners with two couples who were visiting, and they were from like the Midwest. I want to say it was both states started with an I, and they were definitely red states, So these were people from like Idaho or Iowa, whatever, farm country, Midwest, Bible Belt, conservative, and they were voters, they were Trump voters, and definitely on the right hand side of the spectrum compared to me. And I went in with the idea in my head, Maria, that most definitely all of the Trump voters were either stupid, crazy, or racist, right? And I had breakfast with these people, and they were the nicest people, and they didn't have a problem with me. And you know, they they definitely were going to vote Republican, and their whole thing was, I'm not necessarily all into what he's doing, but somebody had closed down the steel mill, and their neighbors were losing their farm, and they had not seen a Democrat in 20 years, and they were just tired. And but in terms of their relation to me, everything was fine. We had wonderful time. We talked about the wines, we talked about their families, their lives. We shared, like, pretty much, as far as I could tell, all of the same values, and just made some different choices. But it was not a problem with them. And when I understood that they were just part of it, It made a lot more sense. It made a lot more sense. Anybody else? How is it helpful to think about it versus them for you, and the concept of separating out justice and being just us? Yes, Larice.
Um, I'm getting overwhelmed by all of what you're saying because there's a lot. And I'm trying to put it simple for me. Simple. Um,
Thank you.
yeah. Uh, um, for me, it's making sure that I am taking care of myself and that I am growing and learning about myself and doing all the things that come from the inside out. By coming from the inside out, then I can be out in the world the way and connect
I'm
uh in
about to go plop if you want to wait.
what?
No, I think it was just an aside. We're just gonna help to mute Sari, and she can go off mute if you
Oh,
somebody would mute. Okay, go ahead, Larice.
so for me, I believe this is what I believe. So if I'm not working on me and let's see, and have the truth and everything of myself, I won't be able to be outside and have truth in the world and be in the world of what's going on. And I can't, because there's so much of it happening, I have to protect myself against too much information coming in. So I don't get overwhelmed. So I'm trying to say is it comes from the inside out. And
Nice.
I think that's what you're meaning in a simple terms. And once we get out there, we're true to ourselves, and then we can pick and choose what we want to do. Uh, Without me, I get overwhelmed if I have to think about everything that's out there. I mean, uh, I that's it's the only thing I can say is yeah, that's
Oh,
yeah.
that's perfect, and thank you for that, Larice. One of the I think about these things a lot in very interwoven ways, and so I was trying to explain some tech concept to somebody, and I created this video, and she replied, "That was really good. Now, help me understand that and say it again like I was five," and simplifying it. And I realized that actually a really good explanation, all of my favorite teachers, right from primary school to university, made things so simple that you could understand it like you were five. And Larice, you hit it spot on. Inside out, eudaimonia is an inside out thing. You guys have heard ladies and guys, you've heard the term, um, like somebody who's feeling like a fish out of water, right? Could a fish possibly be happy outside of water? It's
Jack has his
probably not going. Yes,
Jack has
Bob?
his hand up.
We're going to get to Jack right after. Thank
Okay.
you, Bob. Yes. Okay. A fish couldn't be happy outside of water because a fish is a fish. And so a fish to be really happy should be in water first, and then it could be a productive fish otherwise. So you're absolutely right, Larice. It first starts with an understanding of what you are, and then who you are and what you need, and it has to happen inside out. Absolutely. Jack?
Yeah, let's simplify it further. If you can answer the three important questions in one's life, which, in my opinion, is who am I, what am I doing here, and where am I going?
Yep. Yep.
And that's the only thing for me is worth discussing.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll add one more, Jack. There's I think I think there's even one that starts before that, which is what the hell's going on? Like there's that first thing too. What the hell's going on? Because that helps you understand the next one. Who am I? Because if you woke up in this strange universe, your first question, without any knowledge, would be, "What the hell's going on?" And then your second question would be, "Well, who said that?" And then you go on from to understand that, and then what should you do about it from there? Most definitely. Deborah, see you with your hand up.
Yes, yes. What you said about your experience with somebody who did not share your oops your political perspective, it really strike a chord with me. Uh, because there are good people out there and they just align themselves with whatever is serving them. Right now here in Dominica, there's things that our administration are doing that I am saying no to. Um, I am not hating them, or I am somebody who come from a place of love and compassion and trying to understand what they're doing and trying to establish and seeing how we can actually work with them, and because at the end of the day, Dominica, we all of us love Dominica and we want the best for Dominica. So one of my principle is to, when it comes to justice, there will never be peace if there's no equality. Yeah, and that is where the fight for justice come in, and it's about us, as Dennis quite rightly say. And we are responsible, for bringing justice for everyone. So I was actually born in a place called Guyana, British Guyana. I don't know if some of you may have remembered the Jim Jones story
Yes.
in Ghana in the
Yes.
1970s.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I experienced that. I was a little girl at that time, and that really
Oh.
is just really driving me to do
Mm-hmm.
work across the Caribbean in terms of questioning our leaders and preventing more people from drinking the Kool-Aid, so to speak. You know the term drinking the Kool-Aid, right?
Yes. Yes.
Exactly. So that
Mm-hmm.
people can be aware and make informed choices. And that is where I am at the moment. We're going through something very critical at the moment, questioning something, asking for some legal documents for things to be done legally, the right way, and to inform the community. So thanks for opening out that, Dennis, and I'm really happy to see your perspective and how you approaching this whole thing with justice, equality, and as you say, justice is involving all of us, and it's not us, but no, it's not them, but it's all of us. It's inclusive. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, absolutely. And I and here I want to share some good news. I don't know if you've watched the news over this last little while. Something kind of groundbreaking happened just this past week in Los Angeles. In Los Angeles, a jury found Meta, that's
Yeah.
the parent company of Facebook and WhatsApp and Instagram and Google, for their platform YouTube, liable for the harms caused to that individual, creating
Mm-hmm.
social media addiction in her life and negative impacts. Um, by that outrage cycle, by the way, I talked about the outrage cycle. That was the thing that made me think that those people, well, in 2016, were crazy or stupid or racist. The outrage cycle had a hold of me, and I was convinced that's the way they had to be. Well, this past week, I think it was on like just a few days ago. My show was on Thursday. If it was on Wednesday, the ruling came down. They were Meta and Google were found liable for about the tune of $6 million payable to one person. And that was groundbreaking. Most definitely, there was a lot of people who had been talking about social media harms, talking about responsible algorithms, trying to make these things safe for many years. There's been many failed lawsuits, but because just one person had the endurance to do that one thing, one small step was made where it's really shooken those platforms, and it created a little piece of increased justice in the world. The second one I'll just share is, again, this past week, and you would have thought it was a thing already, but just officially, enslaving people was just categorized as a crime against humanity, officially at the UN level. Wow. Wow. And that's because a few people said we should go and make a resolution and we should advocate for that. And now it really is. And of course, once you have a crime against humanity, you also have to have some sort of restitution for crimes. And those are going to be the next steps as well. Ron.
I do a lot of peacekeeping work and do a lot of training in conflict de-escalation and use a method with we use a method called CLARA, calm, listen, affirm, respond, and add information. Calm being essential because we can't calm anybody else down if we're elevated too. But listening, when we listen to those people, we find usually the default is to be listening for points we can argue with.
Right.
And in Clara, we teach that we listen for things we agree with and finding our common points of humanity and responding to those.
Yes.
And when we respond, we respond with how do we feel? How did that make us feel?
Yes.
When I heard you say this, it brought joy to my heart. And then we can go to the things we disagree with and talk about how those things made us feel.
Right, right.
And then at the tail end, we add the information.
Right.
But we always want to look for the common humanity.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I also want to adopt Ron's very calming voice and pace when he says that, because it's exactly the kind of thing that makes you feel that you were heard. And when I spent that time with those folks in the bed and breakfast, when they mentioned the steel mill and the farm that closed, I'm grateful. Without knowing that acronym, Ron, spent some time asking them, well, how'd that make you feel? And there was a lot of pain under there. There was a lot of fear under there. What was going to happen next to their neighborhood? What was going to happen next to their friends? What was going to happen to the legacy of the farm that had been in their family for generations? And it helped us to understand each other a lot. And then, they themselves asked me how I felt about some of the things that were coming my way as well. And even though we didn't agree, we didn't reach any point in agreement over breakfast. It's a little bit too much of a short time frame, but we did reach some common ground in terms of understanding how the other person felt. So important.
It's
Diane. And then Emily after you, Diana, and then Emily. You're on mute, Diana.
Thank you for pointing that out. I thought I'd share an experience I had last year when I was spending hundreds, literally, of days in the hospital with my husband in his declining heart condition. And well into that period, I discovered that there was discount parking available at the hospital. If you went to a certain office and bought a pass, it would, instead of $12 a day, it would be $7 a day. This is significant when you're going every day, with families with long-term patients. And so I said, how are families supposed to know about this? And it says, oh, well, it's posted in the elevator. So I was like, I've ridden the elevator every day. Wow, I guess I'm not paying attention. So I look, and in the elevator to the left and down low is an 8.5 by 11 framed thing with this, 12-point font type explaining this parking pass eligibility. And I was like, if I missed that, I bet many others are not aware of this. And the stress of paying even more money than we need to just to visit our loved ones is crazy. So I sort of drove this up the line to customer relations at the hospital and finally got one of their chief honchos. And she met me in the lobby and said, I appreciate your concern. Where would you put this information? And I was like, I will tell you. And we walked around and I placed things and I make suggestions. And she's like, oh, we should hire you as a consultant. And I was like, feel free. I'd be happy to help. And so she was going to take that under advisement and take it, up the line to communications and, see if they could bring more attention to this. Well, the long story short is here, I believe that, most of the practitioners I was dealing with in the hospital, we're all wanting quality of care. We're wanting not just the patient, but the family experience to be good. But this system is wanting to maximize profits and maximize profits off of parking. Okay. So in the time that passed after that, several more months, I never saw a change. And I went back later to visit someone else. Nothing had changed. And they changed the requirements for the parking pass. So it was even more limited to who could get it.
Oh. Yeah.
So all that to say, I could certainly see the us. I didn't think the people at the front desk were failing to tell me, et cetera. But, these systems can work against no matter how clear we are about who I am, what I want, where I'm going, systems can rub up against us and be very intractable. It was empowering to do it. I wish more had changed. But that's my story.
No, I think it's a valuable story, and one of the things, because the systems are complex, and I like the way you framed it, because the system was optimized for the profit. Like all of the individual people probably felt it was a bad idea, and yet that outcome happened. Remember the parking the shortcut becoming a parking lot story that we talked about last week? It was, we all wanted to find the shortcut and get the swift way home. But because we all used the same GPS system and we all took the same shortcut, that shortcut turned into a parking lot. It was that Moloch. It was that dictatorless dystopia that resulted because of the system. But once you start to unpack, I think what's the important thing, we talked about the importance of systems thinking. Once you start to unpack how the system works, you can start to find small points of leverage where then you find, okay, if I tweak the system in this way, that may happen. And I think that was what happened in that lawsuit in Los Angeles. Somebody understood that the previous ones failed. Okay, let me pay attention to that. Let me make one based upon this. And then we had one small step in the right direction. And by the way, systemic changes are hard and they take a long time. They are easier to pursue once you get yourself out of the frustration of being angry at them. Then you're able to work on the system together a little bit more. And you can go back to them and understand, how can we now work with this system to have the change that we all really want to have? And that's a much better way, because if we put ourselves in adversarial position to them, they retreat from the process. And now instead of having allies, instead of it being just us, it's us versus them. And that's not a great way to achieve the change that we seek. John.
It's Emily's turn, isn't it?
Oh yes, Emily. Sorry. Emily, and then John.
I forgot what I was going to say, so it just.
Sorry, Emily. If you remember, no matter if it's a little bit later on, sorry about that. You can feel free. All right. All right. Yeah. Sorry about that, Emily. Okay. Thank you for mentioning that. And folks, if I miss anybody's turn, please do remind me. I think it is John next, right?
Yep.
His hand up? Okay. Very good, John.
Just wanted to share an observation with you about the vote on slavery.
Yes.
There were 123 countries voted in favor of it.
Mm-hmm.
Argentina, Israel, and the United States voted against it.
Oh.
And 52 other nations abstained.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
Really?
So the Among the abstentions were Britain and other members of the EU.
Yes. Yes. And we can think of certain reasons why they might want to, given historical context as well.
Yeah.
But yeah.
You have to remember the heart does not deal with reason.
That's right.
Very much, Jack, and neither does the system, by the way. Neither does it. It's optimized for certain things, and it's not aligned. If it's not aligned with our values, and it has those outcomes. You're absolutely right. So that's a really good. I think it's clear that we've internalized very nicely some of those principles. So that was the what we are and the understanding of what we operate in and how it impacts our understanding of this of the it. Now we get down a little bit more to the who are you part. So we understand what you are, human in this interconnected web of life in a complex system that is not necessarily optimized for our shared values. And in order to really know what we ourselves can do about it, like was said before, inside out, ourselves, we have to understand who we are. While some brave soul goes first, unprompted, to give me a few, if I ask you, who are you? I want you just to give me just a few lines, maybe one, two, three things that describe who you are. And everybody, you can think about who you are. And in particular, you quiet people who haven't contributed to these conversations. One of the easiest things to talk about is yourself. So you can give me 3 lines that describe who you are. And we're going to just take note of the common characteristics in the description. So who wants to go first and tell me, if I ask you, who are you? What would you say? Anne, I saw your hand first.
I will borrow from a teacher that I respect a lot. I am a spiritual being having a very challenging material existence.
Very spiritual being having a very challenging material existence. And if I further delve into that, and if I said that's very true, and that is, I think, very common amongst us. What would you say that distinguishes you from the other spiritual beings having a material instance on this call? Who are you, Anne?
I have everybody I know has challenges in their material existence, and where we differ is in the nature of the challenges. So on one hand, that helps me to empathize with people who have very different kinds of challenges than I have, but we're still having challenges in this material existence. Another difference is that some folks I talk with reject very, very strongly having any kind of spiritual existence and reject the idea that they are a spiritual being. And I do not push at all. I can tell them, well, I think I am, and I think you are too, but I can't. That's what I think. I can't tell them who they are.
Thank you so much,
Dennis, it is easier for me to work with the challenges in my material existence, knowing that I am a spiritual being.
Yes, indeed. How about let's simplify the question a little bit in this way. We are at a party. We're at a tea party or at a cocktail party or whatever, or maybe not cocktails, whatever. We're at a get together, and you meet me, and hey, I'm Dennis. Who are you? Hey, Dan, I'm Dennis. Glad to meet you. Who are you, Dan?
Hey, Dennis. I'm an almost retired computer programmer and software entrepreneur. I'm a rationalistic skeptic, an atheist, and I belong to three sort of spiritual groups that are all mostly care about values more than beliefs.
Okay, Dan. So, Dan is almost retired, like so that was some part of what he did in the world, software engineer, part of his job. Dan talked about some groups that he was a part of. That helps me to place you in the world. Dan. Anybody else? Who are you? If let's have a couple more, especially somebody who doesn't say much. I would love to.
Not like me.
No, I picked on Dan because I knew Dan wouldn't mind. Dan's always got something I can get from him. So I just grabbed him for that reason. But let's hear from you folks. Who are you?
What
Yes.
popped into my head when you asked was I'm not sure which order I would do this in a party, but I do like to tell people that I'm a little bit weird. And don't fit into many boxes that society has tried to put me in. And I am a friend, and I am also a caregiver for my mother. So
Okay. So a friend, a little bit of a weirdo, a caregiver with your mother. Again, very good. I saw somebody waving at that was titled Harold Darling, and then I see Sherry, and so Harold Darling, and there's Sherry who waved her hand, and there's another raised hand with Deborah. So let's go with Harold Darling, Sherry, and then Deborah, and we'll go for there.
Okay, I'm Connie, his wife.
You're sorry, say again?
I'm Connie, his wife.
Okay, Connie, great.
All right. Harold and I got married very, very young, and so I became a mother. And so a mother was my whole life. And after our children had grown, I went to college and I became a teacher. And so
Yes.
I have progressed from being a stay-at-home mother, a teacher, and now retired. And
Yes.
that is pretty much our life, or my life. The things that I've done.
And so again, go ahead.
I believe that in all those places, I have left my hand on children. There's been something that I have done to leave my hand on the child that would progress him or her to a better place.
Amen.
A wife, a mother, an influencer of children, a common thread in those descriptions of who you are as well. Deborah, with your hand up there.
Yes, I am delicious Deborah from Down to Our Daily Seas in Dynamic Dominica. I am also an activist, a community development advocate for change and positive development. I am the face behind the Caribbean Movement for Peace and Healing, and also Stand Up for Dominica campaign, and also soon to be Stand Up for the Caribbean campaign.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
So
nice to meet you.
Delicious, dynamic Deborah from Daily Seas.
Dominica.
I think I got that. Daily Seas Dominica. Oh my gosh! And also a bit of an alliterist. That's a word, and a poet in your own right.
And
Activist.
I'm also alive to a dynamic man and two amazing adolescent children that keep me busy. And I'm also labeled as a little crazy, and I love it. The craziness in me, both of the craziness in you, I'm enjoying it.
There you go. And by the way, there was not a wrong answer in any of that, right? Because that was how you understood yourselves, right? But if we're talking about eudaimonia, if you were talking about the fish out of water, we have to understand, what is appropriate for a creature such as you are, right? What is your place? This is where you're going to be happiest. those answers that you gave, right? When you feel that tension in your life, that something just ain't right, because you're out of water. You think about it a little bit. Why do I feel this tension? What am I doing, or where am I being placed that is creating this tension in me? And you'll often find that it is because there's a tension between what you're doing or where you're being placed or where you are in the system that is at tension with the what you are. You know, I myself, uh, I'm a writer who hasn't been writing, and an artist who has not been drawing enough. And I feel tension about that. I'm also the son of Pastor Lena and Sam Augustine, and I feel so much. I felt, and we're doing something very hard here, but I feel so much joy now, an unexplicable joy, when I got to Dominica and I started working to defend the charity, and I understood that that joy was not because it was easy, but because, wow, that's in tune with who I really am, and that's what's giving me the joy to do the hard things, and I feel better about myself. And if you're a spiritual person, as somebody identified with, and you're not sharing that with other people, you might feel some tension, right? So very important if we're talking about how you're going to live the good life, that you don't just understand what you are in terms of, you know, your biological interconnectedness in this system, but who you are, and think deeply about who you are. And that comes, many of you, we heard some common threads that were, a lot of those common threads too were also in relationship to other people. Mother, activist, computer programmer, etc. These are things that don't have much meaning if you're the only human on earth, right? They have much more meaning in relationship to those other people in which you need to deal. So that's what I want you to think deeply a little bit about that. And when you're feeling a little bit at ease, out of sync, where's my water? What am I supposed to be, and what's connecting with me? Let's try to find that, and that's a good clue for you. We talked about your particular sensor pattern. Those things that outrage you are great clues for what's deep inside of you that you need to connect with as well. All right. So we've had a really good discussion about some of the what we are and the system and how it's broken, and what we, you know, how we kind of see that in the world, at work. We've talked a little bit about who we are, and that's something that's going to be a very much a introspective journey for you, but also one in relationship with where you find yourself, both with other people and the system itself. So that has a lot to do with who you are. Now we're going to get to the part, this is the where the rubber meets the road part. This is where we actually get to the part about, well, what the heck are we going to do about it now? All right. So yes, morning, George. Sorry, you're muted now. George can we unmute George? I think he's starting to contribute, and I think we got him muted by accident. Was that no? Or?
No, I have. I'm on the phone with a friend here.
Okay, so no problem. All right, no problem at all. So let's get a little bit into this how now. How do we live? John, you have something to contribute before we get there. I'm muted, John.
I would invite you to consider what you're starting very much to be a teaser for the third date. Given the time that we have, and we generally use about the last 10 minutes.
I think you're spot on. Let me tease potentially a third one then. I think we need to spend the next 10 minutes. We're going to start to talk about some of the needs that we have and those we want to keep in our hearts. And thank you so much, John, for that. I appreciate that so much. And I'm going to hand back over to Maria to take us through some of this next 10 minutes. But what we're going to talk about, if we have a third date, folks, is how we're going to make that practical. Eudaimonia. So you're going to think a little bit more about the who I am personally now in relation to other people and deep within yourself. And then we're going to try to unpack for the next time, how do we then live? I'm going to suggest to you that it's experimental, that it connects with harmony with those first two questions. That tension is going to give you a clue right? And then we're going to really kind of unpack what you can do. You can think about ways that you can live a more fish in water sort of life. And then we're going to discuss how we then can contribute to that. And I think we're doing that in a very good way. Many of you over at the No Kings protest have found your way there. Many of you contributing to Religion Outside of the Box have found your way there. Many of you who have activist roles have found your way there as well already. And so we're going to touch a little bit more on what we can do about it, how we can live when we speak next time. Once again, thank you so much. I leave with my heart full once more. And Maria, over to you.
These are the people to whom we are sending light and love. Shmuley and family, Reed and Gwen, Rita S., Shirley W., Lois and Daryl, Nick and Julie, Cullen and kids, Anne and Jim in spirit, Patrick and Emily's son-in-law. If there is another person in our community to whom we can offer light and love, please put their name in the chat, and I will add them to the list on Facebook. And for the people who aren't named, but who are in our thoughts, we send them light and love as well. And we'll take a minute. Okay, thank you, everybody. Thank you again, Dennis. It's been fabulous. So, and you know, it's a great conversation. So we need that in depth. We need that time to go through these things. So,
for sure, Maria. Somebody asked if there was any announcements, Maria. You got any announcements for the people?
I put some regular announcements in the chat, some links to joining the contact list. If there's someone you want to contact outside, you can put outside of service, you can put your name in that. And then you can find out people's either email address. Some people put their phone number as well, that sort of thing. You get to choose. I also put in about the caregiver group, a caregiver, people who are actively involved in caregiving. We have formed a group that meets every 2 weeks sort of thing. And there's an email in there. If you want more information, I put the link. If you want to donate to this wonderful group and what it takes for Brian to keep it going. Also, as always, it's okay not to be okay. And if anybody wants to say that out loud, feel free.
It's okay not to be okay.
Not to be okay.
Not to be okay.
It's my favorite one. I love that announcement.
And that one gets followed up with love them anyways.
Hey, Maria, I wonder if maybe we could announce Rabbi Brian's matzah making on Sunday.
Sure. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah, let's see if I have the details. Rabbi Brian offers an opportunity to make matzah from a 15th century, I think, recipe. And there's 2 times on Sunday, the 29th, that's tomorrow. I bet that's on Facebook and or the website. Sorry, I don't have that in front of me.
I'm guessing it probably would be. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can register for that and get out your salt and baking pan.
And I could say there's nothing like the cardboard that you buy in the store. It's really delicious
Cardboard.
matzah.
I know there's
Nice.
pepper. That's yeah.
There's pepper and honey and eggs and
Yeah.
it's olive oil. It's delicious.
Sounds great.
If you
Thank
like
you.
matzah.
This is not. If you don't like matzah, you would like this. This
Maybe
is
this
not.
is a conversion experience, possibly.
Very
And it
nice.
has an
It's
interesting
fun. It's
story
fun
connected
though.
to
It's fun to make
it is
matzah
fun.
with Brian.
Yeah. It has an interesting story because it's connected to the Inquisition.
Oh,
Ooh, there we go. Food and learning.
yeah, good teaser.
Yes.
Great combo.
No
John,
wax.
did you have something?
Yeah, Brian asked me to.
Okay.
In the people for which we're offering thoughts and prayers, you mentioned Shirley W.
Mhm.
And I lost the last name.
Wayness.
Oh, thank you, Shirley Waynes. If anybody has contact information, please use it. She is at a high level of need for contact, for reaching out, people reaching out to her. So if that opportunity arises for you, please take care of it in a fairly timely manner.
Thank you. Thanks for saying that, John. I haven't seen her in a long time.
Yeah.
I sent her a message and she did reply back by text. So and with a heart emoji. So she really appreciates having messages right now.
Thank you for letting us know that.
Yeah.
I am going to stop the recording